Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in select states.
Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
You're tuned in to the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC. We are the crown jewel of AM radio. My guest now is Dr. Ronny Jackson. He is currently a congressman from the 13th District of Texas. He is a retired rear admiral in the U.S. Navy. And for 14 years, he served in the White House medical unit, ultimately rising to the head of that unit and essentially serving as the personal physician for 3 presidents: George W. Bush, President Barack Obama, and President Donald J. Trump. Ronny Jackson was elected to Congress in 2020. He has an amazing life story. He has a new book out, which I commend to you. It's called Holding the Line, A Lifetime of Defending Democracy and American Values. And Congressman and Dr. Jackson, I'm not given to long introductions here on the show, but yours merits a word or two. You were raised in Lellaville, Texas, where the congressman learned the value of family, faith, and hard work. After working as a roustabout in the West Texas oil fields, Ronny Jackson paid his own way through undergraduate school at Texas A&M. Following graduate school and medical school, at the University of Texas Medical Branch, he began active duty service in the United States Navy. With unique training in underseas medicine, he utilized his talents while deployed with the Navy divers, explosive ordnance disposal teams, and Navy SEALs, was assigned from locations around the world, from Panama City to Sicily, Italy. Dr. Jackson would later complete his residency in emergency medicine, finishing the top of his class. Therefore, he was deployed to Iraq, where he served with the U.S. Marines to lead resuscitative medical efforts on the battlefield for Combat Surgical Shock Platoon. While serving in Iraq, he was called back to Washington. As we said, he spent 14 years in the White House Medical Unit. Congressman Jackson, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate you having me.
So people may not realize it, but as the president's physician, regardless who's president, you are with him anytime he leaves the White House. If he goes across town, you are with him. If he's on Air Force One, you are with him. If he is on Marine One, the presidential helicopter, you're required to be with him. You're with him essentially anytime he leaves the White House. So you know Donald Trump, the man. You've spent a lot of time with him. I've known him 45 years. I try to explain him and describe him to people, but sometimes it's difficult. He is his own man. He marches to his own drummer. He's a man of enormous courage and stamina. But tell us about the Donald Trump that you know.
Well, I have a just unbelievable respect for the man. I really do. And I didn't know him when he came to the White House. Obviously, I was on active duty, and I was the senior physician. I'd been there, as you said, during the Bush administration, the Obama administration, and I was initially planning to leave at the end of the Obama administration because I had already I was already a Navy admiral. I already had 20 plus years in. I was looking to get out and, make a little bit of money or something, because I, hadn't had the opportunity to do that so far, in my career. So I was kind of getting ready to get out, and I was talked into staying by some of the folks that were on the Trump transition team, some of which who knew me from the Bush administration, and I'd taken care of them and their families as well. And they had trust and confidence in me, and they wanted me to stay. So they talked me into staying. I told them I'd stay for a few months until I could find a replacement that they were happy with, and then I was going to move on. But you know what? I got to know President Trump really quickly. I got to know him faster than anybody in the White House that didn't know him at the time. And one of the reasons is because I was the first one to see him every morning, the last one to see him every night. And as you described, I traveled with him every time he went anywhere. I was at his side, just a couple of minutes from where he was at, no matter what he was doing. And what I found in President Trump is I found a man that. Like you said, he's a leader. I mean, he's a true leader. He's aggressive. He's opinionated, but he listens to others. But he has incredible instincts, Roger. I mean, I've just seen this man before where he knows something is the right thing to do, and he will have every political consultant and everybody from the West Wing and everybody from the Pentagon and all these people that may have some stake in the matter, all in the Oval Office with him, and they'll all be making the argument why it's not politically the right thing to do, or it's not advantageous to him right now. There'll be a better time later, or something he should forget about or not consider, or so on and so forth. But you know what? If he thinks it's the right thing to do, there can be 99 of 100 of them in there telling him that he shouldn't do it, and he'll do it anyways. And I've seen over and over and over, he's always right. His instincts are always right, and it turns out to be the right decision. And everybody comes back later on and says, you were right, we were wrong, and that worked out really well, and that was the right thing to do. And you just don't come across people too often that have that incredible instinct. He's a great people person. I mean, if you get to know him, this Roger. He's a joy to be around. He's easy to talk to, and I learned to love the man really quickly. And I positioned myself to get to know him. I've been around the White House long enough to know that how to do that. And so I, have an earpiece in my ear every day. I listen to Secret Service traffic, and they call out every movement of the president when he goes to the bathroom, when he moves from one room to another. They call out every movement, and his call sign was mogul, and so they'd call out, mogul moving here, mogul moving there. And so I'd get to work in the mornings early on, and President Trump's up for probably 3 hours before anybody else shows up in the West Wing to come to work. He's upstairs, watching TV. Back then he was tweeting, and talking on the phone. And he's involved in a lot of stuff before he even comes down in the mornings, before anybody else shows up. And I would be in my office, listen to the radio, and I would hear mogul moving to the elevator. So I would get up from my chair and I would walk to my office door, and my office is directly below the president's bedroom in the White House. And my office door is directly across from the elevator that comes down from his bedroom. So I would stand there in the door, and the president would come out, and I'd say, good morning, Mr. President. And he'd say, morning, Doc. And he'd walk over to me, and he was looking for somebody to talk to by that time, right? And he would say, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And it's never anything medical related. It was just whatever's going on in the news. And I'd say, yes, sir. And we'd start talking, and he'd say, walk with me. And so I'd walk him to work in the mornings, and I'd walk him down the West Colonnade, walk him down the Oval Colonnade into the back of the Oval Office, and we'd finish up our conversation. And, whoever was out in the outer Oval, whether it was the CIA briefer, the National Security Advisor, or the Chief of Staff, or whoever was out there, they'd wait, and I'd walk out. They'd walk in as they would start. But I really got to know him really well, and that few months that I was supposed to be there came and went, and I never considered for 1 second of leaving the White House. I realized that this was the best president that this country's ever had, and that it was an unbelievable honor and privilege to get to work for him, and I still feel that way today. I love the man, and I think that he's the best president we've ever had, and I'm looking forward to him being president again.
What's most amazing about Donald Trump is his toughness. I mean, I worked for Richard Nixon. He's a very tough guy. I worked for Senator Bob Dole, one of the greatest Americans of the century, would have been a great president. He was a very tough guy, but neither one of them as tough as Trump. Trump's stamina, and his optimism in the face of adversity is extraordinary. I knew his parents, Fred and Mary Trump, German Scottish stock, like Donald Trump. They were active and vital into their 90s. People ask me, you've known him 45 years. Does he seem different to you? No, actually he seems exactly the same. He has been, as you know, sharp as a tack. These upcoming debates, if they pull off, will really be extraordinary. President Trump has said that previously that President Biden should take a cognitive test, a mental acuity test. This was in the wake of the State of the Union address. And President Trump has offered to take the test himself. This was, I think, based on the erratic performance of President Biden in the State of the Union, which he seemed amped up and then seemed to be let down. It turned the whole thing into a bitter partisan harangue. Congressman, what is your view on whether both candidates, given their age, and certainly Biden's performance, should take a cognitive or mental acuity test?
Well, I'll comment first, Roger, on your comments about his stamina. His stamina is incredible. I mean, this man would go on overseas trips, and we would get on the plane, and we would fly for 13 hours. We'd leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd land, and it'd be 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning where we landed, and the day would be starting over, and we would have a full day ahead of us. And everybody at the end of that day would be spent. The Secret Service, the White House, the military aid, the doctors, everybody around him, the senior staff would just be exhausted. And this man would just go and go and go. So his physical stamina is pretty incredible. His cognitive ability is super impressive. I mean, his memory is better than my memory and better than my memory's ever been. And anyone who's been around him knows this. The guy can just, recount in great detail all kinds of stuff that's happened throughout his life. It's really incredible to see. And he has a unique ability that I think people ask me to describe what's special about him. You know, how people get beat up day after day after day, and if you beat them up long enough, it builds on them and it brings them down. And after a while, you can see it just has a cumulative effect on them. It brings them down. You cannot do that to Donald Trump. He goes to bed every night, and every morning when he gets up, he is reset. And he may get spun up about something during the day, but when he goes to bed that night and he gets up the next morning, it's a new day and he's completely reset. He will not let this kind of stuff build on him and bring him down. It's just not his nature. It just doesn't happen to him. But look, I mean, as far as the cognitive test goes, you can look at these two men and there's no more drastic example. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. You have one man who's a high performer, who's got incredible energy, who, like you said, is as smart as a tack. Sharp as a tack, and you have the guy on the other end who's constantly confused and lost, and he can't speak. I mean, he slurs his speech. He shuffles when he walks. I mean, he looks physically frail, and he sounds horrible. And everybody in the country's had somebody in their family that's gone through this process, whether it's Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or multi-infarct dementia. I'm not giving the guy a diagnosis, but he's got some kind of cognitive issue related to his age. We've all seen it, and you don't have to be a physician. You certainly don't have to be a physician that was at the White House for 14 years to look at this man now and say something is wrong with him. And I know what it is because I've had a relative, I've had a grandmother, I've had a grandfather, I've had an uncle or an aunt or somebody that's gone through this process. I've seen it. I know what this is, and it gets worse every day. It does not get better. The natural history of this is to progress. So, yes, I think it's perfectly reasonable for us to get cognitive exams on the presidential candidates now. Joe Biden needs to submit to that as president of the United States. I don't know if you remember or not, but whenever President Donald Trump had his physical exam back in 2018, we got a cognitive test done as part of that exam. I oversaw that. And he got a perfect score, 30 out of 30. And I suggested it that we get it. And the reason I suggested that was because the mainstream media was, spinning things up. They didn't like his style. They didn't like his attitude, and they were trying to, say he wasn't mentally fit to be president. And so we got the objective data to prove that he was cognitively not only fit, but cognitively, at the top of his game. And Joe Biden needs to, as far as I'm concerned, Donald Trump set the standard. The precedent has been set. And if we ever had a president that needed a cognitive test, it's Joe Biden. So, yes, I'm fully supporting the call for Joe Biden to get a cognitive test. I've already sent 5 letters to the White House to his physician and to Joe Biden, demanding, and to his cabinet, demanding that he get a cognitive test associated with his physical exam. Those letters have been completely ignored, but the American people are demanding it now as well. And I think that we're to the point now where it's even gone beyond that. People know he's got a cognitive issue. People are wondering what kind of drugs he's on now when he shows up for things like the State of the Union, when he's still pretty cognitively, incapable, but he's wide awake, alert, and just a screaming, angry old man. That's what we saw at the State of the Union. People want to know what's going on there. So now there's a call for drug tests before the debate, and I support that as well, because I do think that he's being given something that this country that we don't know about.
Well, you're absolutely right about the resilience of Donald Trump. He's an amazing, resilient individual. I saw it, in the 80s when I knew him then, and his financial empire was going through problems because the entire economy crashed, but it was particularly rough on real estate, and he lost everything. He'd made multi-millions, perhaps into the billions at that point, but he lost it all. And of course, he got it all back. And he was unfazed. He's the toughest negotiator who ever lived. He negotiated with the banks who he persuaded that he was worth more to them alive than dead. He got terrific terms for them, and he rebuilt his business empire. I was there and I saw the enormous stress of everyone around him, but he was nonchalant and determined, resilient. I see that today. The idea of him being forced to sit in a drafty, cold courthouse in Manhattan, given this farce of a trial, it's an indignity. It's a humiliation. It's meant to be one because this is a politically motivated trial. Congressman Jackson, your thoughts on what's going on right there in Manhattan?
Well, I agree with you, Roger. It is, and honestly, it's an absolute embarrassment to this country. It's a shame. It's a disaster for our judicial system and for our courts to see something like this going on, see them getting away with it. But look, it's the only way that they think they can beat him. They know for sure that they cannot beat this man at the polls, right? If it's a fair election, he will absolutely destroy Joe Biden at the ballot box. They know this. So they're resorting to just trying to damage him before they get to that point. I mean, there's still going to be fraud. There's going to be overwhelming fraud in this election cycle. I don't doubt that. I mean, there was fraud last time, and they'll try to do it again with these unsolicited mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting and stuff in the ballot boxes and all the nonsense that went on last time. They're going to do that, but they are scared. They are scared that they're not going to be able to even fraudulently overcome the vast uprising in this country right now in support of Donald Trump because of the absolute disaster that Joe Biden has been for this country. Joe Biden is destroying this country, and everybody on both sides of the aisle, whether you're Republican or Democrat, regardless of race or gender or anything else out there that they try to make an issue of, people see what's happening to this country, and they are scared, and they look back and they realize that their lives were so much better during Donald Trump than they are during Joe Biden. So we've got apples and apples that we can compare here, and it's not working in Joe Biden's favor. So, yeah, they're going to continue to do this. This trial is an absolute joke. I was there last week. I sit in the courtroom, and I was just disgusted with this judge. I cannot believe this man. I can't stand this man. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was so obvious that he was part of the prosecution. He was not an impartial judge. He was part of the prosecution. Every single time that the Trump lawyers opened their mouth, they would the prosecution would immediately object, and before they could even get the word objection out of their mouth, he would say sustained. And I mean, it was just like he would not let the defense speak. And then when the prosecution got their opportunity to speak, he just sat there quietly and let them say whatever they want. It was so biased, and it was so overwhelmingly obvious that this man is part of the prosecution. I think that the two biggest threats to this country right now, I'm going to be honest with you, the two biggest threats that we have right now are the weaponization of government and election integrity. If we can't get those two things fixed, nothing else in this country matters, Roger.
Look, I went through it myself. In fact, my case was the template, was the the test run for this trial, from the unconstitutional gag order I was subjected to, the refusal of a change of judge, even after the judge made prejudicial comments about me, the refusal of a change of venue out of the bluest part in the country, D.C., where we were going to get a partisan jury, a denial of every reasonable defense was prohibited in pretrial rulings, and of course we later found that there was jury corruption. The forewoman of the jury who said during jury questioning and jury selection that she didn't know who I was and she wasn't familiar with the Russian collusion case, only to find that she had posted on Facebook and Twitter about me and attacks on President Donald Trump, who she said all of his friends are racist. But she had that all in a private setting on both media applications, so my attorneys could not find it when they tried to research each juror. So I have seen this kind of bias up close. This is a partisan witch hunt, if there ever was one, and the government still hasn't been able to decide on one underlying crime. In other words, for these financial transactions that it appears Michael Cohen directed and carried out, for them to be a felony, they have to be pertain to or cover up some underlying crime. And the government has various theories, but they don't have a crime. It is outrageous that the judge will not let the former head of the Federal Election Commission testify as a witness for Trump to say that the FEC investigation and the FEC law found no violation. Folks, if you're just tuned in, I'm getting cranked up, as you can hear. I'm here with Congressman Ronny Jackson of the, I guess it's the 13th District of Texas. He is a retired Rear Admiral, served with distinction in Iraq, is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, the U.S. Navy, but served with the Marine Corps, a man of great honor, and a man who is standing up for our country. His new book, Holding the Line, A Lifetime of Defending Democracy and American Values, Ronny Jackson. This is the Roger Stone Show. We'll be right back with a bit more of Congressman Jackson, so don't go away. And we're back. This is Roger Stone. If you're just tuning in, this is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC Radio. We're here with Congressman Ronny Jackson, who serves in the 13th District of Texas, but it's not his political accomplishments I'm in awe of, although he's in his second term. He served his country with distinction in the military, serving in the U.S. Navy, becoming an admiral, but would go on ultimately to head the White House Medical Unit, where he was the physician for three presidents, those being George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. I know, Congressman Jackson, you write in your book that during your time serving during the Obama administration, you kept your political opinions to yourself. But what was it like to work for Barack Obama?
Well, I'll be honest with you, on a personal level, he was good to me. On a personal level, I didn't have any issues with that whatsoever. The family was fine to work for. But obviously, politically, I think that he set the groundwork for what's going on in the Biden administration right now. And I witnessed a lot of it, and during the entire 8 years of the Obama administration, everything that happened, it didn't matter what it was related to identity politics, right? It was straight versus gay, black versus white, rich versus poor, man versus woman. Any way they could figure out to try to divide us and to make you feel like a part of a persecuted minority that was being victimized by everyone else. They tried to do that. And that's what goes on now in the Biden administration, but it's on steroids now. And they tried to be kind of reclusive about it and hide it a little bit in the Obama administration. They kind of quietly did it behind the scenes, and they weren't as out in the open with it. But now in the Biden administration, they don't really care who knows. I mean, they're just out in the open. They could care less. They're blatantly racist and, in their approach to so many things in this country right now. They could care less how obvious that is to the American people. But I think that all started in the Obama administration. So I think that those 8 years of the Obama administration did a lot of damage to this country and set the stage for the disaster that we're living through right now.
Congressman, how confident are you that President Trump will retake the White House?
And I'll tell you what, Roger, if it's the least bit fair, now I said before, I know there's going to be some fraud, but I feel like there's overwhelming support for the president right now, and I feel like it's just going to be too much for them to fraudulently take away from us. So, I mean, if it were a fair election, I would tell you 110% it is going to happen. It is, but I'll tell you right now, I think that he's coming back. I think he's going to be our next president, despite everything that's happening right now, despite the fact that I know that they're going to go to extremes in the swing states to try to rig the election to the extent they can, despite the fact that they've weaponized every single component of government against him to try to tear him down, to try to keep him from getting on the ballot, to try to keep him from being eligible to run, to try to mar him in any way they can with these trials. Despite all of that, he's going to prevail, and he's going to be our president. And our country needs him back more than anything right now. There's very few people. There's only one person, in fact, that I know of that can do what needs to be done right now to restore this country and to get our country back, and that's Donald Trump. And that's because a lot of stuff you and I talked about in the last segment about what a unique person he is, and the characteristics and the capabilities that he brings to the fight that normal people would not bring. And that's what we have to have right now. He is the right man at the right time to restore this country and to get our country back, and it's going to happen.
Going back just to bolster something you said earlier, I find it interesting that one of the great legal fights of all time were over President Richard Nixon's White House tapes, the famous Watergate tapes. He argued that they should not be turned over to the government or made public, that he had released a transcript, but he claimed executive privilege. The Supreme Court ruled against him. Now, Joe Biden's Justice Department is refusing to release the audio of his recording with special counsel Robert Hur. Their argument is they have released a transcript, and that's significant. And they're claiming, guess what? Executive privilege. So I think this just bolsters what you are saying, Congressman, that it's not what he says, it's how he says it. And his agitated attitude, his constantly forgetting what he's saying in the middle of a sentence, his shaking hands with people that don't exist. Again, our guest, Congressman Ronny Jackson, I thank you very much. Again, folks, I commend to you his book, Holding the Line, A Lifetime of Defending Democracy and American Values. His is a uniquely American story. He has served his country with great honor, serving both Republicans and Democrats, but then taking on the task of running for the U.S. Congress. People don't understand. I mean, this man retired as a rear admiral. He could have retired and lived comfortably, but he's chosen to get back in the fight. I was honored to be at a birthday party for him at Mar-a-Lago recently. And I have to say, you need to read this book, folks, because his experiences are absolutely unique. A final question. I find, anecdotally, Congressman, when I go out on the street, people come up to me because they recognize me from politics, and they keep telling, and the number of people telling me they are for Trump is overwhelming, but the number of those people who are African American or Hispanic is disproportional. Now, that's not a scientific sample, but something that I'm experiencing every day. We've seen it in the polls, the president making gains in these crucial communities. Congressman, what's been your experience?
Well, I've had the same experience as you, Roger, especially here in Texas, where you have a large Hispanic population. Hispanics that have never voted as Republican their entire life are pledging now that they are going to support Donald Trump. And the reason is because what's happened to this country has not affected just one race or one religious group or one, gender. It's affected all of us. It's been devastating to all Americans, regardless of those identifiers. And so people are just, they know, they can see firsthand how much better their life was just a few years ago under the leadership of Donald Trump, compared to the absolute disaster that is Joe Biden now. And so this is people, these are people all over the country that want a better life for themselves and for their families. And they realize the only way that's going to happen is if we get Donald Trump back into the White House.
All right. I want to thank Congressman Ronny Jackson of the 13th District of Texas for joining us today on the Roger Stone Show. Congressman, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate it and looking forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.